We are just family. What it really means, I can control you. After this, you will spot these patterns instantly, and once you see them, they stop working. These are the signs everyone misses. But not you. Not after this. You bring up a concern and suddenly they are not there anymore. They do not leave the room, but they stop answering. You are met with a blank stare or a sudden interest in the television. This pattern works by creating a wall of silence. You feel like you are shouting into a void. You start questioning if your feelings even matter. Sound familiar? Picture this. You ask your mother, in-law, why she invited guests without asking. She just walks away to wash dishes like you did not speak. Or you try to set a boundary about your kids, and they just say whatever and look at their phone. If you hear phrases like, I am not talking about this, or here we go again, you are in it. Once you see the pattern, the dynamic shifts. You stop chasing them from room to room. You stop begging for a response. Awareness changes how you respond. But that is nothing compared to the next one. One day they treat you like their favorite child. They are warm, giving, and incredibly supportive. Then, without warning, they become cold and critical. This dynamic thrives on unpredictability. You feel like you are on a roller coaster. You check your phone constantly to see which version of them you are getting today. You have seen this. On Monday, they are buying you lunch and complimenting your home. By Thursday, they are making snide comments about your parenting and ignoring your texts. You find yourself working harder during the cold spells just to get back to the warm ones. It is like gambling with your emotion. Context matters, but patterns tend to repeat. Once you recognize the cycle, it stops feeling absolute. You stop tying your self-worth to their mood swings. Noticing this creates distance, and it gets worse. They do something major to hurt you, but they find one tiny mistake you made to cancel it out. It is a trade where they always win. This is a common control dynamic. You feel like your legitimate concerns are being erased. You start apologizing for your reaction instead of addressing their action. Sound familiar? They show up at your house unannounced at 7 a.m. When you complain, they say, well, you forgot to call me back last Tuesday, so we are even. Or they insult you in front of the family, then claim it is okay because you are not perfect either. If you hear at least I did not, followed by something irrelevant, watch out. Once you see the trade, the pressure fades. You stop defending your mistakes and stay focused on the real issue. Understanding removes the urgency. This next one is sneakier. You will not believe how often you have missed it. You finally do exactly what they asked for, but suddenly the rules have changed. The finish line just moved another mile down the road. This pattern works by creating uncertainty. You feel like you can never succeed. You start chasing their approval like a shadow you cannot catch. Been there. You finally host the perfect holiday dinner they demanded. Instead of a thank you, they say, yeah, but you did not use my grandmother's lace tablecloth. You spend weeks cleaning the guest room, and they ignore it to point out a single dust mote on a picture frame. If you hear that is not enough or now prove that you actually care, you are in the loop. Once you see the moving line, the influence weakens. You stop playing a game that is designed for you to lose. Clarity replaces confusion. But wait until you see how they handle a crisis. A small misunderstanding becomes a life, altering tragedy in their eyes. Every minor hiccup is treated like the end of the world. The mechanism relies on emotional pressure. You feel like you are walking on eggshells every single day. You start avoiding any action that might trigger a meltdown. Recognize this? You tell them you cannot make it to Sunday brunch because the kids are sick. Suddenly they are crying that you have ruined everything, and this is the worst thing ever. They turn a simple no into a personal attack on their entire existence. You find yourself managing their emotions instead of living your life. Once you see the exaggeration, the urgency disappears. You realize the emergency is not yours to fix. Now you see what is actually happening. But there is a darker level to this. In their world, you are either a saint or a monster. There is no middle ground and no room for mistakes. This dynamic thrives on unpredictability. You feel like you are constantly fighting to stay on their good side. You live in fear of the moment you fall from grace. You have seen this. 1 week, you are the best thing that ever happened to this family. The next week, because you forgot a minor detail, they are telling everyone you are the worst, and they hate you. It is an exhausting cycle of being worshipped, then trashed. You find yourself performing for them just to avoid the villain label. Once you see the labels are not real, the influence weakens. You stop trying to be perfect for someone who only sees in black and white. Understanding removes the urgency. Now, look at how they use others against you. They do not talk to you. They talk about you, or they bring in someone else's opinion to crush yours. They create a competition you never signed up for. This is a common control dynamic. You feel outnumbered and defensive in your own family. You start working harder to prove your worth to the group. Sound familiar? Your father. In-law says, everyone says you are wrong about this, but will not say who everyone is, or they constantly compare you to a sibling spouse, saying, the other daughter-in-law never does this. They use my mom was right about you to make you feel like the whole world is against you. If you hear everyone thinks, or why cannot you be more like? They are triangulating. Once you see the third person is just a tool, the pressure fades. You stop negotiating with people who are not even in the room. Clarity replaces confusion. Now you see what is really happening behind those comments and cold shoulders. You have been looking at these moments as individual accidents, but they are parts of a map. You notice patterns now that others completely miss. This is not about being paranoid. It is about having the keys to your own peace of mind. When you recognize the wall, the chase, or the blame trade, you regain the ability to choose your response. You do not have to jump when the goalposts move. You do not have to apologize for a crisis you did not create. These patterns do not define everyone. They describe specific dynamics. Understanding them gives you clarity, not paranoia. Recognizing these behaviors is not about suspecting everyone. It is about responding calmly instead of reacting emotionally. This awareness creates distance, not fear. You choose how to respond now.